Can you beat Ghost of Tsushima without any upgrades? Act 3. The final one. Well, that is if I don't decide to do the DLC, Iki Island, and waste another 4 hours of my life. But before I say any more, if you have not watched my other videos in the Ghost of Tsushima series, please watch them. I worked very hard on them and they give context to this video. This challenge has taken me like 20 plus hours with hundreds of deaths, and I don't regret it in the slightest. From being shoved off a bridge to killing the leader of the Mongol Empire. I've done it all, though I do need to make note that Act 3 is probably the shortest of all the acts, which just means I have less quests to break down, so I might go into more depth on each one. The deaths in the top left will be all of the deaths from the prior videos combined. With all that said, remember to like, subscribe, and comment if I should do the DLC. Let's begin. Act 3 began with a prison escape. Kenji arrived, convincing the guard to leave his post for some sockeye. He told me that Yuna has my gear at something called the Great Tree. Regardless, his bravery gave me a chance to escape, which I took without hesitation, running across the encampment like my favorite homeless man. I wasn't seen, though there were some close moments. I approached the outer defenses of Lord Shimura's castle. Spotting my horse, I start to make my way to it. Loud alarms blare, indicating my escape to the greater forces of Lord Shimura. All this while I look out to the winterscape I knew I'd be exploring through soon. I rode out of the encampment unscathed, but my horse was not so lucky. Shadow carried me far into the north of the island, but he inevitably collapsed. The screen fades to white as we're presented with the goal of Act 3. Just 3 simple words. Kill the Khan. I bury Shadow and begin the actual gameplay, sneaking past the Mongols towards what was once presumably the Great Tree, in search of Yuna. I made it without too much issue, but Yuna was nowhere in sight. The only thing that was strange was the corpses of civilians scattered around. They had clearly bled, but had no wounds. Mere moments later, I learned what had happened to the civilians in a very hands-on manner.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Getting shot in the back by a poisoned arrow. Fighting through the poison, I collapse. And as the light begins to fade, I hear Yuna riding in to save my life. I wake up a few hours later with darling Yuna over me, and she immediately starts info dumping on me. I gather my gear and survey the area, finding a temple that we will use as our main base of operations as we organize our attack on the Khan. The bad news? The temple is currently occupied by the Khan's forces. Yuna and I rode over, taking out a small fishing camp first with minimal difficulties. Once again, surveying the larger fort, I get a great idea. Using the alarm in the fishing camp, we draw over a large majority of the forces. As they cross the frozen lake, I pull a Napoleon, shooting the explosive barrels, destroying the ice from beneath them. I run on to the lake, finishing off any enemies still on the ice as we approach the inner sanctum. Now, the inner sanctum is designed very clearly for you, the player, to slaughter the leader unit, then with the help of Yuna, kill the remaining 4 archers, 3 brutes, and 3 swordsmen. Obviously, I can't do that, so I snuck around the back and methodically took out the archers one by one. Then, using the arrows from the archers, I picked off as many swordsmen and brutes as I could. Once there were no more arrows left, I snuck back over behind the leader unit and slaughtered him. From there, it became an actual fight, which I did a whopping nothing for, letting Yuna fight them all and only helping on a rare occasion by running over and then reviving her. Even though at this point we know where the Khan is located, we don't have enough resources to even think about beginning our attack. So Yuna shares that she has some unsavory connections in the form of hunters that can help us. We aim to take the fort on the edge of the island. If we take this fort, we can get allies and resources into the north, strengthening our position. It also will allow me to liquidate the last of the assets that Taka had given his life to defend, meaning my monopoly is finally over. I meet up with these hunters, recruiting their help. They agree to give their assistance if we allow them to keep control of the fort till spring. So the hunters and I got closer to the encampment and positioned our troops like it was a real-time strategy game, to shoot down into the Mongols. I assist in taking out some of the enemies, but even after the real battle begins, I just let the archers do it all. The archers are invincible, by the way, so don't even worry. One even fell into this crevice. We continue our fight through the encampment, seeing a massive explosion on the opposite side of the camp caused by Yuna and our other allies. We continue deeper to regroup with them. I even take a watch as my own, raining fire onto the Mongols. With one final push, we finish the Mongols off and regroup with our allies. I get told that the hunters aren't really hunters, and I had essentially just promised this exceedingly, extremely important fort, which covers one of only 2 passes into the north, to bandits. I guess that'll be a problem for future me. So for now, we ride back to the temple from earlier to better plan our attack now that we have reinforcements. Now, to actually plan our attack, we have to know the current layout of the Khan's defenses. So, Yuna and I get closer to Izumi Port, where the Khan is hiding. Although our position isn't bad, we need higher ground, so we make our way to a lighthouse nearby. We get closer and notice a massive quantity of wolfsbane, giving an inkling to what may be going on. The lighthouse is guarded, but we make it in by backstabbing all of the Mongols in our way. Surveying the lighthouse, we notice barrels upon barrels of wolfsbane, and it occurs to us that the Mongols plan on poisoning the Japanese mainland. You know, this will be the first case of Japanese people dying from this poison. The poison I've created. This realization only emboldens our resolve to kill the Khan as we scout out the area. We're able to point out a few notable things. A small fishing town that we can use as an ambush site. A hillside that we could put a siege weapon on, like a hwacha, to shoot down into the port. A flock of seagulls that seem to be flying rather erratically, indicating a coming storm. And finally, the dock master's home. It's likely where the Khan resides. With all the information gathered, we head back to the temple to regroup and plan. Yuna agrees that she will go gather the siege weapons, but we don't actually have enough people to siege Izumi Port. So I make the executive decision to request my uncle for support. Yes, that uncle that put me in jail. I obviously won't be doing it up front, so I wrote him a love letter that detailed where and when to attack Izumi Port. I'm also given the opportunity to pick a new horse for myself, albeit I could have picked the deluxe horse, but as far as I'm aware it doesn't have any benefits, and besides, this is supposed to be a challenge, so no benefits are needed. So I picked the white one and named him Nobu. Trust. Even though I could send a messenger on my behalf, I decided it's still the safest and most secure to deliver the message myself. I journey over to the castle, where I use a back entrance, narrowly evading the first set of enemies. Now, usually for these kinds of sections, it's just to assassinate as many as possible, then finish off any of the remaining enemies. But I can't do that. Why can't I? Well, it's apparently because if I harm any of them, then I'll only prove that I'm the monster that they think I am. So I sneak through the first part of the encampment without any real issues. But I got to a waterfall that I really believed I could grapple across. I was wrong. I ended up finding the correct route to go after a bit of searching. I grappled my way across and scaled up the cliffside. Sneaking my way back up a tower, I look around for a moment, realizing that this is actually the same tower that I spotted the milk stores from in the last video. I also realized I had scaled the wrong building, so I wandered around a bit more, making my way into the center keep, even spotting the blood imbued into the floor from my fight with Ryozu. As much as going down memory lane is fantastic, we have a job to do, so I sneak my way up through the structure, then back down the structure, tenderly placing my love note for my princess. I escape the structure and make it back to the temple in the north of the island. I decide to take a breather and talk to all my allies. Remarkably, all they do is complain about me not helping them. You know, despite the fact I'm saving the island and everything. I digress and go to talk to Yuna. She confirms that she's gathered the siege weapons and the final assault can actually begin. We even have troops joining us that would rather side with the Ghost than Lord Shimura. We approach Izumi Port, preparing for the ambush in the small fishing village, yet Lord Shimura's forces are nowhere to be found. We can't stall for them, as the storm is here, forcing us to attack. We begin by using the siege weapons Yuna gathered on a Mongol ship. This lures a small group of Mongols directly into our ambush. I, for the most part during this fight, just revived people and didn't actually fight. More of a medic than a warrior. Despite, clearly being a medic, they did not adhere to Article 18 of the Geneva Convention. Just disgraceful, really. Now that I think about it, there's been a lot of war crimes in this game. Well, regardless, we press forward. The main fort sends several small detachments to slow our advance, but once more we push through, struggling relatively little actually. Once we finished making our way through the fishing village, we separated. Yuna and the main body of our forces continued to attack and draw out enemies, while I snuck into the fort to find the Khan directly. For the life of me, I could not figure out what to do, so I spent like a good 15 minutes trying to find this one tower. I felt like Jack Frost in that one really bad horror movie. Once I scaled the watchtower, I spotted the Khan, exactly where we predicted he would be. But I also spotted another unexpected face. Lord Shimura. He'd come bringing the full force of his army to assist in our attack. With his forces distracting the Mongol army, I make a mad dash for the Khan, ignoring any and all enemies as I go. Now, I have some important notes on the Khan to share with you. Every single boss in the game has something you have to do to beat them. Ryozu required aggression. General Temuge required pacing. The Khan, well, he requires picking him apart. If I was too close to him for a prolonged period, he would instantly kill me. And if I tried to play defensively, well, he has too many attacks that are just unparryable and some that are nearly undodgeable. So the solution I found was to run circles and pick away at him like a vulture. On the run that I actually beat him, I was fighting for a whopping 6 minutes and 2 seconds. And so there's just no way I'm going to find a good song that fits the fight that goes for 6 minutes. So I'm going to put the fight on double speed, and hopefully it won't look too strange.
Why can't you do it with all the other bosses?
Good question, Evil Goblin. It's because all the other bosses have some kind of counter to that strategy. Now let's get into the fight.
I need more than a piece, my brother. If you rollin' with me, my brother, just know we going past the peak, my brother. And I keep my eyes on the prize so I can never see defeat, my brother. Walking the finest line between the shining night and royalty, my brother. I ain't playing, but they see I leveled up. They fed up, I don't act like I'm fed enough. Hate the game, but I'm sure you could bet it's us. Can't complain, but I'm sure you attempted, brother. Fessed up everything that you estimates and underrate. You can say this the latest of the greats. I always keep the statement up to date by the way that I elevate above the ranks on the way with the fleet. Take a seat or stay out of reach. World is mine, I ain't claiming a piece. Throne is mine, but I stay on my feet. Locked and loaded, I pray that you get low. If you rollin', I pray you don't get cold. Is you ready for war, my brother? Is you ready for war, my brother?
Back and they backing up.
Yeah, don't ask if you're thinking we different. You trash and I'm picking the litter. I'ma spend a whole bag, I'm still getting rich. Really it figures, life's the bitch, now I'm intimate with it. Got hunger, but I'm skipping the dinner to give him the picture. Get him my gold, they ain't giving the silver. They ain't really the win as long as you're still in the mix. That's a real bad luck, brother. Now I got them all shook, brother. I ain't playing by the book, brother. They'll be reading what it took, brother. Soon enough we'll be understood, brother. Started doing everything I could, now I'm doing what you can in case you mistook. Place with grace, but I can't stay put. I'm made to be self-made and make way with the fleet. Take a seat or stay out of reach. Word is mine, I ain't claiming a piece. Throne is mine, but I stay on my feet. Locked and loaded, I pray that you get low. If you rollin', I pray you don't get cold. Is you ready for war, my brother? Is you ready for war, my brother?
Back and they backing up.
Is you ready for war, my brother?
I can't feel anything. My head is like numb. Oh my gosh.
Is you ready for war?
So we bested him, only dying a measly 172 times. You know, not a huge deal. In an attempt to flee, he throws poison in my face, running away onto a flaming boat. I chase him, ignoring the Mongols that try to body block me. Climbing into the boat after the con, we start the second phase, where he sends waves of enemies at me. I killed each of the enemies by using some conveniently placed poisons or explosives. After killing 7 without taking damage, I'd use the ghost stance on the con. By using all 3 slashes on him, it would start another wave. I had to do this 3 times in a row, and if I were to fail at all, it would send me back to the beginning of the waves. But after a few attempts, I got it down, slaughtering the con once and for all. Unfortunately, our victory is short-lived, as the ship begins to sink. So I jump off, swimming back to shore, beaten and bruised, but still alive. And darling Yuna even helps carry me back to the temple. So between phase 1 and phase 2 of the fight, I died a total of 203 times. Despite the island being saved and victory inevitable, Yuna tells me that my uncle wants to meet up with me. So I have to head back down south to find Lord Shimura, as he wants to meet up with me at my family's estate. And for some abhorrent reason, I could not for the life of me find my way down south. I asked for directions to the local Mongol camp, but they were just too confusing. I panicked. Oh. Okay. And even considered the possibility of having to swim around the entire island. In case you forgot, one of my rules was that I'm not allowed to fast travel. That's why I was so worried. Thankfully, I found the way south, via the fort held by the bandits that I had helped earlier. So I stopped by the Mongol camp to thank them for their help and continued on my way. I arrived at the old sparring pit at my family's estate, but Shimura was nowhere to be found. I waited, blowing my flute all the while. When he finally appeared, we spoke. We discussed the failure of the capitalist monopoly because of Taka's death. We talked about how he'll always be my favorite princess, even though I was spending more and more time with Yuna. Most importantly, though, we discussed the matter of the Shogun declaring me a traitor. He was here to end me himself in an honorable duel, or die trying, which I could respect, because I would have poisoned him had he not come to duel me. We arrived at my father's resting place, both of us writing the final words of our clans.
Strength in every step. Destiny divides our souls. Will death redeem us?
The battle began, and get a load of this guy. I think I can probably beat him in under 100 tries. I'm gonna see. Yeah, no, this was rough. Mostly because Lord Shimura had one attack that was lightning quick. So, while editing, I decided to Google how long it takes for a 100-mile-per-hour baseball to get to the batter, and it takes approximately 400 milliseconds, or 4/10 of a second. And using DaVinci Resolve, my editing software, I slowed down the video and counted how many milliseconds it took for that strike to hit me, which was approximately 110 milliseconds. Just to put that into frame, a single blink from an average human takes 300 to 400 milliseconds, meaning that attack is quite literally a blink and you'll miss it. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting. Back to it. Also, unlike every other boss in the game, every single attack insta-killed me. Most other bosses have at least one attack that if it scrapes you, you can heal from it. Not Lord Shimura though, so it had to be a no-hit run. But I have no more need to bore you, so let's actually get to the fight.
The wounds dealt my spirit will never heal.
Killing me will only make them worse. You want revenge for my failure.
This is not my revenge. It is my punishment.
Oh my god. I never thought I was gonna beat it. I never. Oh my god. Oh.
I died 204 times. I think it's really funny that I died one more time fighting Shimura than I did the Khan. I don't think it has any real significance, but I just wanted to point it out. All that's left is what to do with the man, as he's not dead by the end of our duel. He begs for death, but I am given the option to spare him. I choose to end him for a few reasons. His code of honor is so strong, and he fought his whole life to keep true to it. Secondly, he had literally just killed me 200 times. I'm not letting that slide. Third, I had chosen not to kill him on my other playthrough, so I just wanted to see the alternative path. With the last blood spilled, the island saved, hope glimmering on the horizon, I awaken in my new home, moss-covered and decrepit, but capable of being rebuilt, just like the island. I step outside and greet my Pookie Bear, Yuna. She compliments my new home and lets me know that there is much left to do. Alas, that is where our story for Jin Sakai will end. The deaths from Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 are all on screen now. Just to put it into scale, this is how much of the island all of my dead bodies would cover. If you had as many Earths as I had deaths, you could fill Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, yes, it's called Uranus, Pluto, and Ares with only a little room to spare. I ended up wearing this armor all the way from Komodo Beach until now. From getting thrown off a bridge to killing generals, warlords, friends, and ultimately family. Now here I stand, outside of my home, wearing the same armor that started it all, bringing an end to this short series. Unless, of course, you viewers want to watch me do the Iki Island DLC. Now, to answer the question that this challenge posed, can you beat Ghost of Tsushima without upgrading on the hardest difficulty? Well, technically, no. You cannot, as you're forced to take an upgrade at the lighthouse. But I'd consider this a win. I've died, quite literally, over 1,000 times, recorded for over 20 hours, and edited for probably at least another 50. All of this to say, I really enjoyed it, and hope to do more in the future. You can find my socials at The Real Spider Eye on both Twitch and Instagram. I did actually stream most of this process, but most importantly, I want to give a shout out to everyone who has helped me along the way. From the Big King Chonk for drawing my OC, to the various other friends who helped make my thumbnails and generally supported me. I'm grateful for everything. So, whenever you're seeing this, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.